Good evening. This is Master Yao of Grand Trine. Ah, another video. And we're reflecting tonight on some of the experiences that we've had in the last Tantra class. And so this video is kind of for everybody, I guess, but it's especially for those who are, practiced Tantra in the past. And we're going to be commenting on some things that have been coming up in the last 4 or 5 weeks. I'm titling this The Return of Shame, or we could say Shame in the Bedroom, or come up with a bunch of other titles, all of them having shame in the caption. Specifically, a particular incident came up in one of the classes, or I should say after the class, or a meeting of some of the people in the class, not in the main Tantra class, but connecting branch. And I'm just, seeing this happening a lot more. So in the last 2 years, I would say that I've sort of seen sort of a shift in why people are ashamed if it's connected to sex. And I would say a lot of the old stuff is still there. Penis size, how you look, how you smell, people aren't interested in you, things like that, which, religious stuff is still there, but not as much as it used to be. Here are the 3 main things that I've seen in the last 2 years, growing, categories that are growing, in terms of what seems to be causing shame in the Atlanta area in adults over 35. Well, I'm not going to say over 35, I'll say over 30. Number 1, by a long shot, is adults who don't own or have their own place, and they are living in a situation that's, not ideal. That, you're still living with your parents, or you had to move back in with your roommate, or you had to scale down from where you used to be and whatever. But you're not in the situation you were in 4 or 5 years ago, where, your place is fixed up nice and you have complete privacy. You have your own parking spaces, and you just, when you have visitors, there's no limit on how long they can stay, things like that. This is the number 1 thing that I'm seeing that's causing shame connected to sex, which we have to treat in the Tantra classes. Number 2, I would say women, and they're feeling ashamed because they have received derogatory comments online. In other words, they're having orgasmic issues, sexual issues, or issues with the whole act of making love or attempting to make love, because somebody made some comments about them online, either directly to them on their page or whatever, or to a post, or indirectly. I don't see that much happening in terms of men, although there is some of that as well. I'm not really talking about bullying. Things like, okay, you take a picture, there's 3 of you taking a picture, and everybody that comments on how nice one of the women in the picture looked. They don't comment about the other 2 women, and you're one of the other 2 women, that kind of thing. Or you made a comment, and 2 years ago you got a lot of likes, and this year you didn't get many, things like that, because you gained a little weight, whatever. derogatory or unflattering comments online. And it just seems to be causing, especially women, to have sexual performance issues, which we're going to address here in a second. The third and the least amount of complaints that I'm getting, and I'm not so sure that it's the least frequent scenario, but I'm just not hearing it much, probably because of the people I interact with. And this when you're online dating and you haven't started dating the person yet, or you're talking with the person online because you're using one of those dating apps, and then the person is requesting body pics. So for men, the woman is requesting a dick pic or whatever you want to call it, penis pic. I don't know what's the proper term. Or in terms of if it's the man that's asking the question, your picture that you put in the dating service, the body picture is not clear, not well defined. And so the man is requesting that you send more pictures of the body, of your shape or whatever. And you don't want to do that. These three things are coming up, as creating shame. And as a consequence of these things combined with other things, causing performance issues where it's difficult for the person to reach orgasm, or difficult for them to get really aroused, or all those types of things. When they come and when they present, when you're trying to diagnose if this is the case or not, and if it's creating a problem that needs to be dealt with, because a lot of times these things happen and they're dealt with in the course of life. So you don't really have to do any type of therapeutic thing to deal with the situation. When it gets to the point where it is something that's causing an imbalance and it requires some type of therapy, then you typically need to look at how the person is presenting when they come to the person who's going to be doing the work. And usually they present as talk shy. In other words, they are not, they typically are very talkative, and they typically are easy to go from topic to topic to topic. But when you bring up topics connected to this discussion, they're shy and they're kind of moving away from that. When they're discussing this, they're reinforcing strong points that weren't brought up. In other words, it's like they're preparing to be, they're preparing to defend themselves against criticism. And so they're immediately coming up with things that reinforce their position sexually, the point that they're, whatever, that, in other words, I'm attractive, I'm okay, everything is normal kind of stuff. And so they're throwing that out there right off the bat before you even get to the central stuff. And thirdly, they immediately start talking about the opposite sex in a derogatory way, and they're insisting on action by the opposite sex on certain issues, which tend to be related to this issue. If you're diagnosing them using energy work, then the first thing that you do once you put them on the table is that you see that the energy is going to the head first. No matter which of the acupuncture systems you're using, or what type of hands-free work that you're doing, you notice that the energy is not circulating normally, if there is such a thing. In other words, it's not doing its normal patterns or what it should be doing, but it tends to be flowing up into the head and getting stuck there right from the beginning in the first 5 minutes. And no matter what particular movement that you're doing, you're seeing energy going into the head and getting stuck there. It's not coming back down. You also are seeing that the energy flow to the heart and the heart chakra is weak. so that when you're doing any type of work that requires some type of a connection to the heart, it's the person on the table is like they deflated. In other words, you don't see them being responsive to the table work at that point. In other words, they're somewhat responsive. You can see the heart rate, the breathing rate is a little bit more rapid than normal. And then as soon as you go to any type of work that is sending energy through the heart, the pulse goes back, it falls down, it decreases, and the energetic tension in the auric field is not there. It kind of relaxes, and then when you go to something else, it speeds back up again. Okay. The solution, involves two things. Number one, sending pleasure into the sacral chakra area and to the kidneys, or to the energetic counterpart to the kidneys. And at the same time, using reverse imagery. So you're talking to the person, sort of like almost like a hypnotic type of thing, where you're seeking to bring them down into delta brainwave state, but you're speaking to the person and you're bringing up imagery to reverse the feelings of displeasure associated with the sacral chakra, the pleasure center. So you're sending pleasure into that center, into all of the different things connected to that center, which would be, different types of work connected to the testicles, work connected to the ovaries, work connected to the tubes, connected to clitoris, work that is directly working with the sacral chakra, the front or the back, and stuff that's dealing with the kidneys. Okay, so you've got the kidney meridian running from KD3 at the ankles up into the actual kidney itself, and going through the conception points. So anything that you're looking at that's working with that you can look at that as an entry point for infusing in energy, pleasure into that person's. And so at the same time that you're sending them the pleasure, you need to be suggesting this visualization that is the reverse of the visualization that's causing the problem. In other words, the person's having issues, male or female, with shame and connected to the fact that they're living in a place where they feel bad about having guests come over or things like that, or they got derogatory comments online. People saw something that they posted and the reaction was not what they wanted. In other words, their pleasure center is not positively stimulated. So now you're going to positively stimulate it, and at the same time introduce imagery that reinforces that. That's basically saying something that's making them feel good about themselves or the issue in question. Also, when you're going to the kidneys, typically what you want to do is put the person on their stomach. So their back is up, they're laying on their stomach, and you want to get direct access to the kidneys, which are typically on the back there. And you want to, suck the energy into your palms of your hands. So you want to place your flat hands on the kidneys, so the adrenals are on top of the kidneys. So you're going to be kidneys, adrenals, and you want to be sucking negative energy out using the palms of your hands and the pericardium points in your palms. So you're going to be sucking the energy out and then dispersing the energy away from the auric center. And then you're going to turn them on their back So the stomach is up, and you want to reach your hands underneath them and put pressure and force energy into the kidneys. And by forcing this energy into the kidneys, you're stimulating the kidneys in a positive way. And you can ground to the T4 vertebrae, the thoracic vertebrae, 4 or 5, which is pretty much right behind the heart. You can ground to that vertebrae. That also will help to conduct positive energy through the kidneys. The imagery is very, very important when you're doing this. So I'm going to show you something. We're going to share the screen for a second, and we're going to talk about the sex value table for a second, because that is going to kind of help you understand what is going on here when we're dealing with shame. Okay. 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 Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Please move. Thank you. Sorry about the delay. Okay. Uh, there it is. Okay. So this is the one of the versions of the sex value table. It's talking about the level of energy transfer, and it's talking also about how the orgasm occurs. Um, and it's used as a metric or a measurement of how organic and how natural the exchange is and how unrestricted the person is when they're, so it can be used as an evaluation of performance issues, but in this particular case, we're really talking about it as like in response to shame. Because so this is considered the neutral point here. If you're looking at my pointer, that little space in the center, that's like your neutral place, right? And anything down here below that, we're talking about juvenile sex, basically. In other words, the person is they're they're having an abnormal sex life in one way, shape, or form. That doesn't mean it's good. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's it's not up to par what we would want it to be by you know by spiritual standards, so to speak, or by tantric standards. And so, and it's talking about some of the different types of problems. When you get down here into -1, -2, it's talking about the way the juvenile orgasms occur. And typically, this is only the case because there's other problems going on mentally or emotionally that's causing this to be the case. And shame and guilt and that kind of stuff is certainly one of them, because those things have to be absent if you're going to be having, superior level sex, and you're going to be doing all kinds of, full body orgasms and G spot orgasm, that kind of stuff like that. You're not going to get these things if you really, really burdened down with some of the stuff that's down here. And if you're not getting validation as a lover, right? Okay. So typically, when you're looking at situations where the person is showing up with, and they're dealing with a lot of shame, when they describe their orgasmic experience to you, they're typically probably going to be talking about something from -1 to -4, right? Where you're talking about situations, the worst situation is that they're excessively masturbating, and probably the best situation is that they can only deal with like clitoral or penis stimulation. That's it. For a man, it's like penis stimulation, but it's rapid. It doesn't take long, and it's not very intense. The worst particular case would be basically all they're doing is masturbation, and they don't have a whole lot of sex drive, right? You're getting down here to -4. And so typically, if you're doing the energetic work, the therapeutic work, and you want to know if it's working or not, when you do your first analysis of them and you rank them, and of course, this is not the only way that you're going to be analyzing them and to diagnose their problem, you want to look at a 1-point rise in 30 days. So if they're at -5, they need to go to -4. If they're at -3 when you start out, they should go to -2. That's assuming you're doing at least 4 sessions in that 30-day period of time, right? So, that's basically saying that you are, you're seeing them once a week. Typically, if this is a client and you're a professional doing this, then, and of course you're charging, then the person's probably going to want to get this out of the way. So they're probably going to be seeing you more than once a week. But if it's someone that you know and, they're not your girlfriend or boyfriend, you're probably going to be doing like once a week, give it a chance to take, and maybe have them do some type of therapy to go along with that. But if you don't see this orgasmic change, in other words, the way that their sexual performance is moving from one level to the next higher level in 30 days, you need to consult with someone to change your energetic modality, the way you're doing with this. Okay, that's it for today. We're gonna talk about some of the other things that are coming up here today with people having such a virtual experience, and so they become very susceptible to things that aren't really real. I mean, they think they're real and they're real to them, but it's like they're responding to sexual stuff with a lot of negativity, and it's not really called for. And a very small amount of positive therapy, positive work with Tantra, with the energy, can go a long ways to taking care of the problem. Okay. That's going to do it for us. And we will continue this next week. Bye-bye.